Okay, well,
right,
then
well,
anyway, let's go ahead, but, uh, yeah. So I guess the first thing we need to do is, well, I assume there's no citizen petitions. And so we can move on to approving the minutes. There were two sets of minutes in the, but
Hold
I
on,
think
hold
we
on,
had
Hugh. Sorry,
approved.
Hugh.
Yep.
I think I got Dave over in attendees here.
Ah, he ended up where I usually end up.
Yeah.
There he is.
Okay, now he's muted. I wonder if he knows.
well, if he hears us, Dave,
Now he's
there it
unmuted.
goes.
Dave,
Is that any better? Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yep.
we can hear you.
But you can't see me apparently.
No, but we're happy to hear you.
Half a loaf is better than none, huh?
There you go. If you don't mind, Dave, we'll go ahead.
Please do.
Even though we can just hear you and not see you. Okay, so I think we need to approve the minutes and I think just for the one meeting, right? The other one was already. Is that
The
right,
only
Carrie? Or-
addition to the other meeting was because I signed in late, I had trouble getting in. I missed the vote for that refund. So the vote was yes, but I didn't include it in the minutes. That's the only change.
Okay. So
Well,
it was unanimous. Do we need to
I just like, I'll move to approve both sets of minutes. It seems to me that I mean, it's probably never going to be an issue, but why not? I mean,
Yes,
because
second the motion.
Yep. Okay, so all in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Dave, you'll
Aye.
have to say aye. You can't raise your hand, or you can, but we can't see it.
Who knows
Trust
what
me,
he's
it
doing?
happened.
Okay. And communications and bills, there was nothing indicated, nothing's changed. Okay, so we'll move on to reports. I don't think we have consultant report or attorney's report. Greg, you can tell us if there's changes to sewer use, and we're on to your director's report.
Okay, the only thing I have for the director's report is the operations supervisor is out for advertising now for potential candidates. It closes on January 19th, which is what, next week. So we'll see who we get.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, or we'll move on to the facility report? Harry, are you gonna talk
Yep,
about
I can-
that?
Yep, I'll take care of that. So I'm guessing you all have it in front of you. It is the year-end report, so there's some year-end sort of some stuff we can cover. Well, the status is that we still perform quite well and do better than our permit requires. For nitrogen, so for December, we averaged 110 pounds per day. But we end the year with an annual average of 184 pounds per day, which is more than our permit target of 153 pounds per day. So this was caused, I don't know if you recall, at the beginning of the year, we had a problem with cold weather and alkalinity that caused us to have some high numbers for a few months. So we did well for the rest of the year, but we still ended up a little above the allowance. So, you know, the program's kind of going through some changes, and I can't really give an estimate of cost because I'm not sure what they're doing as far as a price. So it'll be a little while before they come up with a price. So, you know, as the trend is shifting from between buyers and sellers, they change it. So we'll probably have to wait a few months to get that number.
We can see it, Dave.
Yeah. I found another button to push.
There you go. Okay, and so Harry, is that like administered by the state or by who?
It is. So it's a state program. The federal government allows the states to create their own, manage and run their own programs. So it was, the state established it as a means of influencing plants to remove nitrogen with this buying and selling credit program where those who do well sell credits and those who don't do well have to buy the credits. So it's been in place for quite a while. We had been doing pretty well, I think, for the last couple of years, but this year we didn't do that well. So yeah, I don't know, I've talked to DEP a couple of times about the fate of the program, because as more people get better at removing nitrogen and will be selling credits, there will only be a few plants buying credits, and the cost would have to drop incredibly to make it affordable. You can't charge a plant $30 million to pay every other plant that's removing nitrogen. So there's a point where it's going to break. We just got to figure out, they have to figure out when that is. So we'll see what happens this year. Another interesting thing for year-end numbers was the sludge totals. So the sludge removal total for 2021 was 808 dry tons. That was the annual sludge generation. So that's an increase, 11% increase over 2020, which was 730 tons. And it's not in the report, but the prior few years were similar. We were at 730 tons range for quite a while. I mean, I thought it was kind of funny that the town of Groton was so regular. So there was an increase this year, and there were more trucks involved. That went from 526 to 554 trucks per year. So I think we covered in a past
Would the beard
meeting.
people have anything to do with this?
I'm sorry?
Would the beard people have anything to do with this?
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't say that, I mean, I'm sure they're contributing something, but I don't know in the grand scheme what their increase would be.
Well, the data we have, if we added that in, would that account for the difference?
Well, I can't really calculate a pound of, pounds of sludge from the data we've collected to a reliable point that says they're contributing. I mean, they were contributing last couple of years too, when we were in the 730 range. So it's hard to say that it's them. I mean, they may be contributing something, but there's probably some other forces there too.
And I assume we pay by the truckload, so this increases your operating expenses?
Yes, it does. A truck costs around $700 per truck.
And so I don't know what that works out to, of several $1,000. I guess, at some point, I know budgets on the preliminary budgets on the agenda for later, but obviously potentially we need the budget expecting the sort of higher number rather than the lower number.
Yeah, it looks like that's about a $20,000 increase. If I did that correctly. Any more discussion on that, or any more
Anything
questions?
else, Harry, that you want to say? Any questions from anybody else?
Nope, not on the sludge. I mean, I can, the other numbers, we do have a new mechanic who started. He came down from Public Works Department. he replaced the open mechanic position. Ken Comfort is his name. We had 57 call before you digs. 4 of them were emergencies. I know we talked about the emergency thing in the past where I don't believe any of those 4 were, midnight call outs. We did have 2 grinder pumps to be replaced, so that brought yearly total to 15. As far as projects, we're still being hampered with our pump station upgrades by, getting materials delivered. So, we're looking forward to getting some work soon, but, the contractors are doing what they can with what they have, but there's some pieces are still missing to make some great gains. So I'm hopeful that that'll pick up shortly. I think that's about it. Well, EB is going to remove the outfall. They've pushed it a little bit, so they're going to begin in early February. So I think that's about it that's going on at the plant.
Thanks. Any other questions, Laura, John, Dave?
Good.
Okay. So I don't have a report, so I guess we're on to old business, which is the update on Beard Brewery and the numbers and memo that Carrie sent us today from Harry describing the testing results. So I don't know who's gonna take this item.
Yeah, I'll just say Harry did get finalized those numbers that we talked about last time, got those in. And I know it looks like basically they're about where they were 2 years ago. So nothing seems to have really changed. So I know Harry, if he hasn't already, is going to be setting up a meeting with both the owner to Mystic Cheese and Beard in the next couple of weeks. And, we're going to, I guess, start ramping the pressure up on these guys to do something, because they've been telling us they're going to do all these things, but we really haven't seen anything concrete yet. So I'll turn over to Harry.
Yeah, I just had a question. I mean, I'm looking at these numbers and they look monumentally greater than they're supposed to. I mean, we are allowed to charge them more, right? Have we been? We haven't been, though, right?
No, we're not.
Well,
But
I mean,
what we can,
maybe that's what we need to start doing. It's if they're not gonna, I don't think they're taking it seriously. That's that's the impression that I
agree.
And, if it
Yes.
starts costing them money, maybe they'll start doing something.
So I guess the challenge, I agree with you. I guess the challenge is, do we need regular monitoring in order to be able to bill them this additional amount, or are we allowed to do it, based on some average values over some period of time? Is there any procedure for that?
I would think it would be difficult to try to bill them on average values, that we should have accurate data.
so there's no such thing as installing a meter or something like that. These
Well,
They
So
were
the-
supposed to.
these are like
Yeah.
periodic tests that you did, right?
These are with portable equipment that we put into a manhole. We should have an actual sampling manhole that's designed to measure the flow rate and also collect, programmed to collect samples at certain intervals. The system we have does that now, but it is temporary portable equipment, and that sometimes doesn't prove the greatest accuracy. I mean, I'm not saying these numbers are far off, but they're definitely could be more verifiable.
Well, how about we test them periodically at times that they don't know when they are, and as to dry lab a number that we an increased number to charge them. Can we do that?
Why
Well,
not
ahead.
inform them? I mean, it's not like they're hiding it.
Oh, we can inform them. We just don't inform them when we're going to test. They can't ramp down on something every Tuesday because that's when we test.
I see.
It has to be at random.
Well, I mean, I understand that. It's difficult with the equipment we have now because, you know, it's a confined space entry. So we set up in the road right in front of the brewery. They know we're going in the manhole, putting in the sampler. So, I mean, it hasn't affected it so far. I mean, you know, it's not like, I don't think they're dodging anything with these kind of numbers. And maybe it's just the way their process is that they really can't, that they have to discharge when they discharge.
And this is Mystic Cheese's first foray, so they may not have understood getting into it what this aspect of their business might be.
Right, and that could be because as I recall back, you know, I know that Chris Lund did have a phone call from the beer brewery owner, but I don't think anything was ever discussed or nobody contacted anyone from the cheese company.
Right.
Maybe it's time to consult the town attorney and see if we're being had, and see if we can just put in a number, even if it isn't accurate. Charge them more. Maybe that'll get them loosened up and on the way to doing something.
Is there a middle ground that's less adversarial? Or has it been too long?
Well, I wonder, is there any way that we could require them to put a meter in, given the fact that it's clear that they're overusing and that we do have a right to charge them for doing that? And is that something that can be required of them so that we'll have an accurate readings as time goes on? I mean, maybe that's something that the town attorney could help give an opinion on. But I mean, it just seems to me, if you've got a user who by their very nature is overusing the system,
right.
and we have a right to charge them, then we either have to make estimates or we have to get an accurate count. And it's you would think it's actually in their best interest to have it be accurate.
Right.
But why should we pay for the meter? Why shouldn't they?
So I guess if we are legally able to require them to pay, great. If we're not, why maybe we should pay for the meter, because we potentially are going to pay that meter off real quick.
Right. Well, can we ask the town attorney to give us an opinion about what our options are as far as how we go about getting these people to pay up? I mean, we are legally entitled to make them pay for the extra usage, right? It's just a question of how do you determine what the amount is.
Correct. That's the industrial surcharge is what we're talking about, and that is in the town ordinance. We can, legally enforce that to make them pay this extra amount that it causes.
So maybe we'll actually have an attorney's report next time and tell us what our options are as far as how we can go about making them pay. Because I don't think that they're going to do anything unless they feel like it's in their financial best interest to do. They don't.
Hasn't it been like 3 years now?
At least
2.
At least 2 years, yeah. So I'll reach out to the town attorney this week and get him up to speed on where we are and get his opinion on this.
Who is the town attorney?
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Who is the town attorney?
Sushman Shapiro is the firm, but I mean, for something like this, we would probably deal with Eric Callahan.
Oh, all right.
Over there.
One sort of minor point. I haven't fully analyzed the information, but these average values are means, and I think they probably should be geometric means, given the sort of scatter of the data. I think the arithmetic mean
right over my head.
Right. So I don't know, Harry, if you did the means and, I mean, if it was done in Excel, you can just do a geo mean in Excel and.
Yeah, I can do the means. I can do
Yeah,
that.
so just, I would
Right.
change it. I mean, there's only 5 points, so it's not possible to sort of that easy to prove what the distribution is, but given these, particularly for TSS, given a value of 500 and the value of 25,000, I think the mean is probably not the right, the arithmetic mean is probably not the value.
Okay.
I'm
The
a little
geo
confused. Would the geometric mean end up being more?
No, it comes out lower.
Oh, well, I think we should charge them the higher thing then. Let them get off the dime and do something.
Well, so I guess that's another whole issue in terms of, do we have any procedure by which, have we ever implemented this additional charge?
Oh, yeah, there's places in town that pay the extra charge.
And
Like,
so how
Well, I
do
know
we,
Doncasters is one who does. I'd have to look to see some others. I know Doncasters is a,
Well, how was it determined then? How was the charge determined?
for Doncasters.
Yeah.
Well, they sample and provide us the data.
Hmm.
They have an individual permit from the DEP.
Okay.
So they, they're scrutinized pretty tightly. And, so we get data from that.
so maybe, I don't know how often they sample, once a month, once a week, probably not daily.
For, you mean Doncasters?
Yeah, yeah.
They sample, there's some things they sample weekly. Some are monthly and flow rates are daily. So that the strength that they get from their weekly measurement is applied to that is averaged and applied to the whole month flow.
I'm,
It's,
I'm a little,
basically the
I'm,
same way we do it here.
I'm a little confused
That's
about
all
this. Do they do it the same way we do? Just go into a manhole and put a meter down?
No, they have built-in metering and sampling equipment.
Oh, where is this equipment in the brewery or?
No,
Oh, no,
Doncasters.
this is a different industry. Down on Pequannock Road, their equipment is just built right into their facility. Their samplers and flow meters are.
it's a
part of
different
their-
product.
Right.
So they get the output from the brewery gets
No.
fed through their
No.
facility?
No. I'm just talking about Doncasters as a comparison for somebody who samples and gets charged the high strength surcharge.
Well, this is just an example.
Right. Yeah,
Oh.
they're not connected to the brewery at all.
Oh. Okay.
What is Doncaster's product?
Some sort of ceramic mold casting
Okay,
process.
okay.
Yeah.
So there's water
So-
involved.
As
Right.
always with these things, I think, we just have to be sure that sort of the procedures that we implement are even-handed across, different companies or organizations. And so, we just have to be sure that how we address Beard and Mystic Cheese is consistent with what we're doing where we're implementing the charge for other companies. So, I don't, and we may need to provide some guidance about things like how often the sampling is done and so forth, and not just, my recollection is there was talk last year and maybe the year before about installing the kind of permanent monitoring that you're talking about, Harry,
Mhm.
and obviously that's never happened. but anyway, if it were to get done, whether at their expense or our expense, there has to be a schedule established for the monitoring. Although I guess if they were to monitor less frequently, we just use that value for a longer period of time.
How much would it cost to do it right? That is, put a permanent installation in this manhole and to monitor it permanently. Well, how much would that cost?
I mean, we could put that number together, Dave.
Yeah.
Because Carrie and I kicked around that idea as the possibility of us putting this in, maybe on town property, just putting a manhole in ourselves with a sampling device. So we can put some numbers together to see, if it's a lot of money we're talking about or a small amount.
Yeah. And maybe we should, at the same time, ask the town of Kearney whether we can charge them for it. I should think we ought to be able to.
Yeah, it seems to me I'm presumably Doncaster's paid for their own monitoring equipment. We didn't pay for it.
Correct.
Mhm.
And do these levels, you said Doncaster's had an individual permit for that company or that site. Do these kinds of values in any way mean that the permitting would need to be different for Beard and Mystic Cheese?
No, because the DEP has a different permit set up for food processing. These are considered food processing
Sure.
facilities. And I'm not sure they would meet the threshold for an individual permit. They actually don't even meet the threshold for the basic permit registration where they're put on DEP's radar. Without a, there's different levels of permits. Some are where you just registered to a permit, which means, you agree to do these certain things the way DEP wants you to and that sort of thing, but you don't have an individual permit where the DEP looks at you like they look at the treatment plant. They scrutinize everything. It's kind of more of just hey, you're on our radar and you need to do these things. It's kind of, and as far as I know, the DEP doesn't really inspect those sites either. They just expect them to comply to those requirements. So I think it's more of a way to advise people that the business you're doing can create harm, and just to be careful and stay within these guidelines. And if they exceed certain guidelines, then yes, they'll reach a level of where they get an individual permit.
Okay. Greg and Harry, is there anything else you need us to do in terms of providing, I don't know, instructions, making a motion that we want something to happen? I mean, I think we're all at this point agreed that, this has gone on for a couple of years and so there needs to be movement.
Well, I think we should get a legal opinion, and I think it would be helpful if it was in writing.
Okay, we can do that.
Maybe it would, we never have talked to the people in Stonington, have we? They have a brewery and do they have the same problem? Have they had it?
Well, we're really talking about the cheese company, right?
No, it's
Well,
mostly-
no, both.
Really both? Okay. Yeah, that was my suggestion, that they've been at it for a long time in Stonington. So there must be historical data or, anecdotal data about how Stonington handled it or something.
Yeah, could you, Greg, just talk to him informally and say,
Yeah,
let's have a cup of coffee and let me ask questions, anything like that?
yeah, we can reach out to Stonington.
That it couldn't hurt, right?
Right.
They're probably dumping directly into the ocean.
Yeah.
What a city.
Okay, so I want to make sure so the points I've heard and that I remember, so, you all can tell me if I missed something. So one thing is, we'd like a legal opinion in writing about who, whether they can be required to install the monitoring equipment or not. And whether, anything else we might need to know to implement this charge. So that's one item. A second item would be to put together a cost estimate for installing the monitoring, assuming we can't require them to put it in, that we could install, like you said, Harry, in some town property, presumably a manhole in the street or something. What that would cost, that was another item. The third item was reaching out to Stonington to see if we can get any useful information from them. That's all I can think of at the moment. We just talked about a whole bunch of things. So were there any other things?
I think that's
You
it.
got-
And
It sounds like it.
so those three cover it. So if we could put those three in the minutes, Carrie. And Harry, you'll change it to a geometric mean. I think that's more appropriate in the memo. I don't think we need to make a big deal out of that.
Okay.
Greg, is there anything else that would be helpful to you and Harry that we need to talk about or do something about?
No, I don't think so at this time. I mean, maybe next meeting, hopefully we'll have, all this information for you.
Okay, as long as there's nothing else you need from us, I think having those three items. And, I would imagine by next month, we should be able to get the information from the town attorney. It shouldn't take that long, right?
No, it shouldn't. I can tell him that we need it for, the next meeting so that it doesn't
Okay,
get to the bottom of his pile.
that'd be great. Anything else on this old business item? No. Okay, then I think we have three concrete action items. And you all can decide whether you want to go ahead and reach out to Beard sooner or wait for some of that information. Not just Beard, but also the cheese. I leave that to your discretion to decide, obviously. Okay, then we'll move on to new business. We had two items, the preliminary budget and the Neptune Drive refund.
Okay, well, this is the FYE 23 budget, which is actually due to finance at the end of this week, but Harry and Carrie have been working diligently on this, getting this together. So I'm going to share my screen and just bring up, I didn't have a chance to get this out to you, but see if I can figure out how to do this.
Good job.
There we go.
Oh, a lot of numbers there.
Yeah, let me zoom in so people like me can see it.
Yeah.
So the top part here is all the personnel costs. And again, this is a draft, so this is not finalized yet. But this is, all the salaries, overtime, Social Security, retirement, health insurance, workers' comp, life insurance, all that stuff is in this top section. This is really all input by our finance department. We don't really have any control over this. The numbers in red are actually last year's number. They haven't even updated these numbers yet. They're supposed to do that the next day or two. So these numbers may actually go up a little bit. But the bottom line is for personnel, we're up only, as of right now, about $32,000, 1%. So that's not too bad.
Mhm.
Um,
Actually, it's less than I would have thought it would be.
Yeah, but like I said, these insurance numbers, like the health insurance, I'm sure they'll go up. So that number will probably go up as well.
It's
Um,
pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah. The next set of numbers, all the fun stuff, all the operating expenses. And this is where, where we pay for everything that we do at the plant, all our utilities, fuel, parts, sludge hauling, which by the way, we did up that amount this year because of what
Okay.
we're seeing. The biggest thing, I don't want to go through every number here, but we're seeing a big increase in, as everybody is, in fuel prices, heating oil from last year. Electricity's going up a little bit, and parts overall. I mean, I think this COVID, I guess we can blame it on that. It just seems like the price of parts has just really increased substantially.
Mm.
And the other thing that's really driving this number up, and you can see here's the bottom line. Last year, we were around 6.5 million. This is last year's budget in this column. This year, we're up to 8.3, which is about a 1.8 million increase. But a majority of that is due to the capital improvement program projects. Last year, we were very lean. We only had $475,000 in projects. We kind of took a year off to kind of get our fund balance up. And in a minute, you'll see that strategy actually kind of worked. So this year we're proposing, I think it's 3 projects we have for a total of $2 million. That's a $1.5 million increase. The projects we're looking at are replacing the A generator, which is the primary generator, backup generator at the treatment plant. We have 2 of them at the plant, and we have an A service and a B service. Right now, the B service is up and running, but the A generator is the original generator from the 1970s. And this thing, and Harry can correct me if I'm wrong, but this thing went out of service a year or 2 ago at least. And
Yeah, it's been offline for a couple of years.
And parts are non-existent for this thing to get it to run. And we've tried bringing in specialists to get it to make parts for it and everything else. And we just, at this point, have said we can't spend any more money looking at this, and we can't afford to not have this thing operational. So we're proposing to replace that for, we're putting in a number of $800,000.
Mhm.
The second one is the Burgess Park pump station. This is a small pump station that's kind of over between I-95 and Clarence B. Sharp. There's a residential area over there. It's kind of in no man's land, but there's a pump station over there that's what we call, it's a canned pump station. It's literally a metal can that's buried in the ground with the pumps and stuff down below. And the thing is pretty much rotted away. It's getting to the point where it's almost a safety hazard for our guys to go in this thing. So we want to replace this pump station. So we're putting in $200,000 this year for the design, and then we'll put in cost estimates, and then next year we'll have the construction number in there. And then the last thing is the Mumford Cove pump station, which we presently have it under design. We're looking at about $1 million. I think we estimated to replace controllers, pumps, and motors at this station, as they're quite antiquated. So that's where we're getting the $2 million for CIP projects. Now, just going down a little further. If you look over here, this is about what we get about 6.9 million from revenue at the current user fees. So looking at what this expenditure of 8.3, we're about $1.5 million short, but we do have a fund balance of over $2 million right now that we can use to offset this this difference. So if we do that, we would still have about 600,000 left, and then in the fund balance. So this is kind of about where we're looking at now. I don't know, Harry, if you want to add anything else, if I missed anything, or Carrie.
No, nothing to add yet.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
The total that you've got here, the $8 million total, does that take into account the expenditures that you don't have yet? You know,
It takes into account last year's numbers, but if
okay.
they go up, you know, $50,000 or 100,000, that number will correspondingly go up.
All
that
right, so
much.
the
But
8,380,000 could go up to 8,500,000 or something like that.
it potentially could, yeah, if it went up that much. Yep.
Okay.
One thing, Greg, or that I think might be helpful when down the road we're thinking about the rates and, you know, whether to change them or whatever, would be, I'm just wondering up above for the personnel, you know, it changed what, 1%, I think, or 1.5%. It'll be a little higher when the additional numbers are in that are in red. I'm
Right.
wondering if you could work out the same thing for the bottom section, just without the capital expenditure. In other words, you know, the trucking and the, you know, all the utilities and so forth, sort of how big an increase is that? Because what I'm kind of thinking is, you know, COVID's going to be with us,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it seems. And so next year, you know, presumably our budget needs to things need to kind of reflect these higher prices.
Agreed.
And I'm just wondering whether, I'm guessing that the increase without the capital is a bit more than sort of the 1%, which of course looks great for the personnel stuff, even if it's 2%.
Well, presumably by the time the next meeting happens, they'll have filled in some of these numbers, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I'm just doing real quick here. If I take this from last year, these two numbers here, that's 3.6
Gotcha.
million
Okay,
here. And then if I take this off here, you're about 3.8 million. So it went up about $200,000
so that's
roughly
about
without the capital.
5%, like 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 5%. Yep.
Okay, I just think that's something we may want to think about. You know, obviously the big change, like you said, is the capital expenditures, but sort of our baseline is increasing faster and that might remain the case, you know, for the coming year. I wouldn't be surprised if these increased expenses for, you know, parts and fuel and so forth, you know, continue next year as well as this year.
Right. Yeah, and these numbers are based on not changing the sewer user fee in the coming year too. I mean, you know, that's something we could, you know, we can talk about too.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody wants to say about the budget? No? Well, thanks very much, Greg. That's useful and helpful. So should we move on to the Neptune?
Yeah.
Well, one question now about this reserve fund, the last bottom line there. reserve fund and equipment, wouldn't it make sense that we're gonna take some of the improvements we're putting in out of that reserve fund?
That's what he said. He's already said we were gonna do that.
Oh, okay, missed that.
Dave, that's below the available fund balance is
Right.
Yeah,
like
down
2
There it is.
million.
Hmm.
And if you take out 1.5 million, then you're left with 600,000.
Right.
yeah.
And Greg, you've told us in the past that this fund balance is something the town essentially requires to have in place.
Well, the actual balance is a lot larger. They require I think it's a 90-day operating expense. I don't know if I have that number, but the actual fund balance is up where around, here it is, almost $4 million.
Hmm.
Oh,
But then,
so this.
yeah, we have to have
when
we have to have a reserve in case, I'm not really sure what it's for, but the town, if
you're being fiscally conservative.
yeah,
Okay, so that when you say available here, that's money that is available that could be spent and maintain the reserve that they require.
correct.
Okay.
So
This
in
is-
other
this-
words, the extra 2 million is like it's not there, even
It's
though it's
right.
there.
Yeah, we can't touch it. It's there, but we
Right,
can't
right.
touch it. I don't know if the
Mm.
plant blows up, we have to go buy.
Armageddon, right,
Yeah, something like that. We have that money.
right.
I thought I remembered from last year that we didn't do much in the way of capital improvements because we were sort of expecting to do it all this year.
That's what
Or
we're doing.
some.
We didn't, we
That's
kind
what
of,
he said.
the
Right.
475, we spent very little last year. That's why we've
Right.
seen such a big increase this year,
Yeah,
because we kind of saved up.
so the reserve fund was more last year because we didn't spend anything out of it?
No, it's a lot less than the 2.1. I mean,
Right. All
We
good.
put money aside this year, Dave, in order to make the fund balance for this year higher, so we could spend money this year.
Yeah, right. So we were sort of paying it forward a little bit, so to speak.
Right, yes.
Yeah. So the target for the reserve fund for next year will be somewhat less than this 2 mil.
yeah, we will be probably spending a little bit less than that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sounds good.
Okay, shall we move on to the Neptune Drive refund? And I assume this is like the other refund and you need us to make a motion?
Correct. Yeah, this was somebody has a house down in Mumford Cove in Neptune Drive. They had prepaid for the full year of $414, and then in December, this is going last year, they basically disconnected their sewer because they're going to be doing, I guess, some extensive remodeling in their house. So for 6 months, that they didn't have sewer there, and Harry sent his staff out to verify all this. So
Mhm.
they're looking to get a refund of half a year, which is $207.
Yeah, I'll move we do it.
Is this being recorded? Right.
Yes, this one's recording.
By the Russians.
Okay, so, Dave, did you make a motion to provide
we-
the refund?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thanks. So we need a second.
I'll let John do that.
I was gonna let you do it, Laura.
No.
I'm just wondering why,
I mean, look, what, like a $3 million renovation and I don't want to pay you $200? Give me a
Yeah.
break. I mean, I get it, but come on.
that's what, it bothers me. They've got the service, they're just not using it. mean,
Exactly, because
that's
they
the way I
choose
look at
not to.
I mean, nobody's
Well-
stopping them from using it. They're
Right.
doing it for their
The-
own.
Right.
Wait, the pipe is capped, it's cut and capped.
Yeah. Well,
That's
if they
one of the
don't put any,
requirements.
Them.
we
What's
don't
that?
have to go to the expense of treating this stuff.
I feel like we're being nicer to them than the cheese people that are working really hard. And I know they're not being good to our system, but it's just like hard to, I don't know.
I
Whatever.
don't know. My basic feeling is, why are we bothering ourselves with this? It sounds to me like it's if you're not using the sewer, well, you shouldn't be paying for it, and why
But
why
the
even
town
bother us with it?
providing
Why
it
not
to
just
you. Yeah,
do it?
whatever. Somebody, I don't want to second that.
Well, motion dies for lack of a second. That would be a first.
Could you blame your sewer commission on this?
If you don't approve it, I can't pay it.
Give me a break.
Greg, can I ask you what's your opinion about this?
Well, I mean, it is in the ordinance. People can request this, unfortunately.
No, they can request it.
Yeah, I'd have to look to see if they actually, if we could have to approve it or not. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, basically, if they had told us they were disconnecting it, there would be no problem, right?
I just have a problem with we're providing the service. It's available at any time. And again, perhaps a $2-3 million renovation and you don't want to pay $200. Come on. I am being recorded.
Yes, I mean, I could run this by the town attorney if you want to table it.
Gonna let each other do it. Now neither one of you wants to.
I know. John,
I mean, if you want me to run it by the town attorney to see, because I mean, this isn't the first one. It probably won't be the last one.
right.
Well,
just
maybe
wanna
that'd
point
be a
out-
good idea. We can always table it for next time, right? I mean, I just don't understand why. I mean, that's like if I decide not to use my water for a month, I can't
Right.
go to the GoAnk and say, hey, don't charge me for this month because I'm not going to be home and I'm not going to be using the water.
Right.
I mean,
Hold my mail.
I
Right.
still have
don't
to
know
pay-
how your water is billed, but my water is billed by a meter. And so if
Well,
I
mine
literally
isn't.
don't-
No,
Mine is billed at a flat rate.
right. Mine too. Hugh, where are
Yeah.
you? You're knowing, aren't you?
I'm in Mystic off High
Oh, so
Meadow
you pay
Lane.
by the drop.
Do you have Aquarian?
Yes, yes.
I have Aquarian, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oops.
So who
Well,
provides
We
your
can
water?
build a flat rate. So I pay if we go to on vacation for a month and we don't use the water, we still pay for that month.
Mhm.
Okay.
I
Okay,
mean, and
didn't-
I don't have a problem with that. I just don't, I mean.
Well,
so-
John, do you really mean you would bring a plumber out to disconnect the thing?
No, he
A
said he
month?
wouldn't do
No.
it. He would not ask for that
I
stupid.
don't,
fee.
I just don't think, I mean, personally, I think it's, they're in the process of doing some construction. They had to stop that. That was their choice, not, nobody prevented them from using the sewers.
And if they
I-
want to turn it on tomorrow, it's available to them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just have a
Okay,
hard time.
So it
following this.
sounded like we could table this to next meeting and Greg would check with the town attorney about the wording of the ordinance and so forth, and
Yep, I can do
you know,
that.
whether
You-
we have discretion since the ordinance allows them to request it.
Hugh, you're a
that
born leader.
Well, several,
Either that or
several,
a born bureaucrat, I'm not sure.
well, several times in the past, we've done exactly this, have we not? Adjusted what people paid because, well, there was one case where they'd actually torn down the buildings or something.
Yeah,
or-
but that's tearing down the building.
And that's probably commercial. I mean. mm,
So I just want to, I got to point out one thing, because I heard in your discussion, something that led me to believe that, I just want to clarify the capping. We went out and witnessed that the sewer to the town is cut and capped.
Sure.
And that's the
Sure.
point where they're looking to stop paying, not
Sure.
before. So, okay.
Right.
Okay. I thought I had heard something that made it sound like it was before we went.
No, I'm just,
No,
I'm
no, we realize
the
that.
principle.
Okay.
It's the principle. Can we sleep on it?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
the
fine with
talk
that. We'll
about
table
it.
till next week, next month.
Okay, so we don't need to make a motion to table it or anything, right? Or do you think we need to?
I would think the chairman could table it.
I'm not sure.
Hey,
Well,
Okay, why don't
motion
we
to
just take a, thank you. So John made a motion to table. Is that seconded? Laura seconds. All in favor? Raise your
Aye.
hand now that we can see Dave. You can raise.
Aye.
Okay, so that passed unanimously. So Greg will get some advice on what our level of discretion is, given the statute.
Yep.
But I will say that I sort of agree that, it's like, somebody could go away for a year
Mhm.
and, so then what? Are they not, they're gonna ask us for a refund because they were gone for a year? I
Right.
mean, the capping obviously is a difference, but, and undoubtedly that needed to get done or perhaps that needed to get done in order to do the renovations, but they don't necessarily have to take however long they could have probably capped it for a short period of time to make the switch over.
Well, if it turns out that we ask the town attorney for advice about this $200 bill and he charges us $200 for the advice, do I get
Yeah.
to give you guys a horse laugh?
Good point. All right.
Well,
it's good.
I look at it as more, I agree with you, Dave. This is always the trade-off. It's sort of like the reason you don't call the plumber out to turn off your water is that'll cost you $200.
Right.
Exactly.
On the other hand,
But it'll
but I
inform us
think this
moving
is
forward.
right.
Yeah.
This is so we
Right.
know for the future
Right.
what our options are.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I think it makes sense to go ahead and ask.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
are we done?
I think so, except for somebody needs to make a motion to adjourn, so I've learned.
second,
And I guess all four of us vote in favor. So we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. See
Thank
you next
you.
month.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next
Bye.
month.